All right, good people. Welcome back
Oh,
for a.
nigga.
Oh, my bad. You was Johnny. Listen, we have to start right away and we have to do these right on time because the people complain. So, before every
Oh,
review
man.
this week, shout out to the one guy. I'm not even going to give him that much popularity that got mad because we dropped the review late. That means you care about us a lot. That means you're watching every single thing you do. So that means, Lucas, for the whole hour that we talk, the last tidbit that you give at the end, where you tell everybody to check out all the content, they listen. So thank
Hey,
you.
that's an awesome thing. As I just got caught yawning. Yeah, you gotta understand here, man. This is
They yawning too.
ah, yeah,
It's the end of the show.
exactly.
They here with
But
us.
y'all,
So.
y'all stuck up late at night, and we are here to bring you episode 4
Yes,
of
sir.
Snowfall. This one
Yes,
is
sir.
called Project
Boy.
Boy.
Project
Projects.
Boys. Yeah,
I'm not
Projects.
saying it right because it's
It's
an S in
Projects
it.
Boy.
Projects.
It's
Boy, is this
Projects
a West
Boy.
Coast thing? Because
It's bad
Projects
English.
Boy is horrible English. I mean,
Yeah.
man, it got to be a West Coast thing. Because when I hear it, I'm hearing. I don't know if I'm putting like "cuz" at the end of it when I say that or
Yeah.
something to really get it to take place. But here, let's quickly jump into this review as the episode starts off with the full plan of how to get Franklin his money back. It's kind of like playing Where's Waldo with this $73 million here.
Yeah.
As we see everything fully laid out, Cassandra kind of hinted toward it in the past episode that they had a plan in place. They had someone, an inside person who should be able to get them the files. And here we see the full plan take place. What do you think about this Ocean 11's type of setup here they did to open up this episode?
I love how you literally always answered the question that you have. No, and it does feel like this right here, and though yes, this is the final season of Snowfall. So we're going to miss this show, this series. And it doesn't look like there's going to be any bit of a spin-off or anything with this, but
Nah.
I have to say, if there was some alternate universe of them doing something, this beginning felt like something different. But Franklin brought us back to reality really quick because he's extremely uncharacteristics, because that money loss got him in the chokehold, and he just quickly takes away every bit of like whatever bit of wonder you or intrigue you have with Veronique and her mother, which obviously, you know, they got things to do later on in this. But I love this opening. I was like, oh, this is different. You know, I like the look, the feel, and what they were doing. But obviously, we would do this because we needed to see what Cassandra could do, how they operated as a team. This is Batman and Robin here, the mother-daughter combination together that went out and did a thing. And Franklin came back and got the reports back, and he was the odd man out. But it was cool to just kind of see the two of them do what they do best, and it was a dope beginning.
I mean, it's even pointing to the way Cassandra worded it about you need to be patient here. Like, patience is rewarded here, which is an old saying we hear all the time. And Franklin is just like, no, you didn't find my money. Blah, 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 blah. It's he's expecting instant results,
and
which is not realistic because, dude, like as she said, like, hey, we know everywhere your money traveled through. We know the banks it traveled through. We know the account numbers. Do you know how hard it is to get that type of information? And then it stops at a point, which clearly to them is where Teddy took the money out of, but he just didn't see just how important it is to get the rest of it out. Like, yes, we know the end result. Clearly, you weren't going to get this money back without getting in touch with Teddy and forcing to play his hand. But if you got the way he got the money out, you literally use that against him to get anything else you want. But it's Cassandra again, accustomed to playing a long game, and Franklin not. I mean, he's in a business where all money comes in fast.
Thank you.
He's not expecting
hit the
results to be slow. Like,
it's the difference in professions here.
Yeah, exactly here, and that's what just throws everything off. But speaking of differences, which is with this episode, this is the whole crux of it for me was this storyline between Leon and D. But here we get Leon as he's talking to Einstein. Did I say his name right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's what I'm talking about. Look here, I'm gonna get these names right. Again, I'm already down the line thinking about Teddy's girlfriend, and I have a name that I'm gonna call her. But whatever, hey, if I'm wrong, we just gonna rock with it today. But as Einstein and Leon talk, as Leon is questioning why is he missing school, why is he coming late, it's the drug dealer that cares mentality here with Leon, and him noticing some of the changes that D has made to the neighborhood, including one of the big ones that Leon is focused on in this episode, is him taking away the lights from the playground area.
Yeah.
Like, what did you think about this initial setup, and where did this setup lead down the road that you expected it to this episode?
No, it did not lead where I thought it was expecting, but Leon is what we talked about, and I'm not sure one of our reviews, but it's okay, folks, because y'all watch all of them, so y'all know exactly what conversation I'm about to have here. The conversation about the OG in the neighborhood, whether it is a drug dealer or somebody that was just older, or an ex-ball player, that person that was in the hood, that looked over the young ones, and like, I get Einstein is taller, but this they depicted this to make sure that you knew he was still young. He was getting ready to pursue college, which means he's still in high school. And Leon doing what we have, what we grew up with, and what a lot of people are accustomed to, is that one influence in your life that you really never gave a lot of credit to. But when you look back, you're like, dang, he did look out for me. Like, he did spit some game that like really shaped in the direction I went. And that's what Leon is. And I don't think this has anything to do with Africa. I know Africa enhanced it, but this was always his job. This was always the styling of what he wanted the projects to be. So when I saw this, I think we got more about Einstein than we got more about Leon here. So to think Einstein by the end of this was going to go in the trajectory he did, I saw that coming. But for Leon and the lights and the conflict with D, I didn't quite see it that way, because it's the last season, so you start to get a little bit on edge on how certain things may happen. But I will say this: it was very telling that Leon did say in the scramble, which also when we get there, he said, "This is my hood," and that's what I wasn't expecting.
Not this is my hood. He said, "This is mine now." Like, he's basically taking ownership again of it. But again,
I was not expecting.
We're definitely going to get to that point, because I was expecting it, because it's a pattern of abuse that certain people go down here. But this is the focus here with Einstein. It is that mentality of some people in the hood want you to do good, and some people in the hood want you to stay exactly where you are.
Absolutely, crabs and barrels.
Einstein's an asset to D. Why would he want him to do anything else with his life? Come on now. And Leon sees a bigger picture of someone who needs to get out this atmosphere.
Before I forget, and I know it's a little scene ahead, and maybe you can just answer when we get there, but do you think Einstein picked that up? How big of an asset?
We can go there. We can talk about that, because I think this is important with Einstein's whole story arc here. Yes, from the next scene with Einstein is the conversation with him and D, as they're sitting at the table, and D's like, "Man, you're the one who's coming up with all these numbers. You're the one who's coming up with all these plans. You're making the money legal."
Yeah.
Like, and then to him say, here's a bonus. Here's a raise, basically. Like, D understands just how valuable Einstein is, and I think Einstein understands just how valuable he is to this organization. But the problem is, that's not what he wants to do.
Yeah.
He wants to be more than this. But you're gonna have people in the hood who are gonna be like, I need you to stay right here. Like, the things I can accomplish with you next to me is more valuable to me than any future you think you can have outside of this.
Facts.
And that's what we get here between D and Einstein, and they're later on scene, because it's clear just his overall thought process when he snatches the paper out of his hand. Basically, like, nigga, what you studying for? Like, nah. He made some good points, and you can equate it to drug life if you want to, and make the simple comparison, because this is Snowfall and it's about drugs.
Yeah.
But all I want everybody to do is pay attention to what he told Einstein. You're already making more money than most people. Why would it matter? That's the same thing they tell black kids when they play sports. What do you need the education for? You're already making the money. So what do we need education for? It goes back to that same thing of, if the money is there, what do you need anything else for? It's such a short-sighted view of the world, but it is a view that people from these neighborhoods, from the hood, I'm from the hood, I damn sure heard this often. Like, you want to go legal? You want to like get us up? You know how much money's in this? Like, I had those conversations with folks, so I understand that these conversations do exist where people don't want to see you do better, and it's not necessarily that they want to punish you for it. It's just that, one, they don't want to be left behind. Two, you're valuable to them.
Listen, we had the comment about saying we needed a podcast. Like, this conversation alone is 40 minutes to an hour easily. Talk about the means of everything you're saying, the NIL program and why that was important for the development of athletes, the folks who booster people to get that 1 year eligibility so that they can come out just so they can get that money bonus off of them. Don't really care about them. This is all like, it's like a Ponzi scheme to an extent. But you're entirely right. And then let's not forget about the best comment of them all. Oh, you think you're better than everybody now that you're gone.
There you go. That's the next guilt trip of the hood. Is the moment you leave, you must think you're better than all of us here.
Oh, you forgot about us,
man.
Huh?
It's great to see somebody from the hood uplift themselves out of something else. It's automatic. That crabs in the barrel mentality kicks in, where you must think you're better than us.
And Leon caught the stray too. He went to Africa, and everybody like, even Jerome was like, "Oh, so you think you're better than everybody now that you went over there and you're all philosophical with us?" Like, it's a hating comment. However you look at it, there's nothing productive out of it. There's no sarcasm out of it. It's complete hate. Hurt people hurt people. That's all that is.
And then they do a great job of depicting that on the show, because these are people in this world that actually exist. And then you get people like me who used to tell people when they say, "You think you're better than us now?" And I'd be like, "I am." Like, you got to be cutting simple and dry with it. I am better than you. And it literally has nothing to do with a position in life. It's the mindset. I'm thinking better than you. If I'm thinking better than you, I am better than you.
Yep.
That's all it is. But next up, we get, I was a little confused here with Reuben as he gets the call about a flood, as they put it here.
Pipe burst.
a pipe burst. And it was the pipe bursting thing with where Reuben was located and then who came out the room that I was like, oh, that's an innuendo. I didn't need this episode at all.
It was, I mean, how do I say this nicely? It was a terribly written scene. It was way too cliche. And granted, if this show came out the year that it's portraying, then this is probably like a lot of reactions will come from out of the scene. But at this now, as we move forward with inclusiveness and whatnot, it's a terrible scene. Cause I'm like, oh, pipe burst. Okay, got it. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, nice. It was unnecessary. It felt like another review we're going to do later on this week with BMF, where a scene of pipe busting just unnecessary. But here it was the same thing.
But I'll say it because we dive a little deep in things here. I no pun intended. Do you think that this guy becomes a liability for Reuben, as we see? They're trying to exploit. People are trying to exploit people this episode, as we see Gustavo's the easy target for reasons. Yeah. But is it the same thing for him?
I don't think so, because I don't think Reuben cares about hiding his lifestyle. That's not an issue for him. And because it's not even portrayed as it being an issue. So I don't even want to make that an issue. I just hated the pun of the joke of the line and the way it was unnecessary. But as it pertains to just him in this situation, I don't think so. Whomever this is to him doesn't come across as any form of a liability here. Okay. This was just more interesting of the setup, because with him being the KGB, it wouldn't be necessarily to talk in code this way over the phone, unless you're talking to someone else in the actual United States government, where you have to hide your conversation. Because we've actually never seen Reuben talk in code about anything. He's been extremely direct up until this point. So that's what piqued my interest more than anything else, is that here he's actually talking in code. And I'm like, wait a minute, like Reuben you're in the KGB. Who else would have the information on you? No one knows you're in the country. If you're with the KGB, no one knows you're in the country. So there's no need to talk in code. But you're talking in code because that other person on that other line is someone that can be traced. So that's where my mind went the moment I heard the code. Again, the pun was horrible, But just that revelation of the code is what was interesting the most for me. Next up is Wanda, my girl. As she sees the neighborhood and how much has changed. And we see an unfortunate young woman being spray painted by a bunch of kids, I'm assuming here. And she's clearly a dope fiend, someone who's passed out. But I love the shot here when Wanda, as it pans around her, as she sees the neighborhood. And this is something that she was kind of concerned about with Lee from the beginning. What do you think about, at this point, the predicament that Wanda's in? We see what happens later on in the episode with her when she gets that joke back to life again. But here, did you feel the despair in Wanda as she was looking around the hood at that point?
Yeah, I see. I'm glad you had that last bit, because I was like, all right, do I go with the joke first or do I go serious? So we go serious because of that. Yeah, it's exactly right. Everything that she feared, everything that they foreshadowed in terms of, and obviously the shadiness that Leon said in the previous episode. There's a lot that I like about this scene and how it's shot. One, because as we do get a depiction of what the hood looks like, we also get a glamour shot of Wanda. And I love how the narrative with Wanda has always been she's a crackhead for all these seasons. In the last episode, she got a lot of love. People love how they shot the scenes in Africa. And, you know, it from the viral takes and TikToks and all that other stuff, folks are finally turning the page on Wanda's identity. So I love how in one shot we get the hood looking completely bad, and then we come back and see Wanda and she's just kind of glowing. But then what's the heart-wrenching part here is her looking at herself on the ground. And you just can't help but to think, like, again, it's the final season, and that's also not a story arc. I don't want it to go that way as she continues. And even with the Sissy talk later, which we can talk more about this, what I'm saying here now. It just was that realization that they didn't come back to what they thought they were. And everything you were escaping is still there. And then if you had any questions, if it wasn't, you're looking at yourself right here on the ground. And for her to have that strength to come to the aid of that person, to face her fears in a way. And as Sissy said, it's a long road, but for her to do so, that's the progress. And it's a beautiful scene. So now that I said that, he said, who was those 3 kids that were spray painting? Oh, it's easy.
Yeah.
Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and Hogan.
Oh man, not the NWO tagging her. She passed out, Joe.
And listen, Hogan don't like black people, so it was easily Hogan.
he clearly was letting the N-word fly with every stroke. He changed that in NWO did not stand for new. But again, I do love it. I love the way this is set up. I love the shot of it. It kind of gave me a Michael Bay feel. It's a shot that Michael Bay pulls off in all his movies. Where he
absolutely the glaring blind shot.
It's an amazing shot to pull off in a television show. That is something I think they've upped the cinematography budget a lot so far this season in Snowfall. But let's stay with Wanda here as we get Wanda's next scene is with Sissy here. As Sissy's about to shoot her as she comes in the house. But the most important thing is this conversation between these two. And Wanda says that one of the hardest things to hear is that we're living back in the PJs and it's so much rock around. I don't know what to do. It brings back something that was said before. We brought up with Leon when they were in Africa. And Leon was kind of talking bad down on people who were addicted to crack while he had Wanda right there with him. Like not understanding like this is an everyday struggle for her. Yeah. And it made me question what Leon think he's doing and if he thinks he's protecting Wanda. And what I mean by that is I can't protect you and put you in a situation that can lead you to break again. Mm-hmm. And by moving them back into the PJs, when Leon technically has millions of dollars, but to move them back in the PJs around crack, and she's a recovering addict, Like at that point, you're just kind of throwing gasoline on the fire here. What do you think about just Wanda's breaking point with Sissy? This conversation, Wanda bringing up how tough it is to live where they're living at, and then Sissy giving her that ray of hope, like, "Hey, you maybe you have to do like Alton did, find something that's going to distract you." And miraculously, we end up back in Alton's shelter as a way just to distract her from the neighborhood. But is it even a smart thing that Leon has put her in a predicament to be in that neighborhood?
Yeah, see, the thing is, Leon is a leader, but he hasn't quite mastered the good things in being a partner. He hasn't done right by Wanda a lot of times. He's loved her. It's not even a question, but he hasn't done right by her a lot of times. Times he gave her money, knowing what she was going to go do. And even in this case, bringing her back and not assessing the triggers around her. After she had, and I said, like, she reminded him plenty of times, we're good here. We're accepted in this community in Africa. What are you going back for? Oh, you want to go save these other folks? Cool. But you quickly have forgotten that this move here for us was to save us. And you instantly forgot that us means the two of us here. Oh, you're good, Leon, but you haven't thought about everything what in ties with Wanda. Wanda ain't in no drug war with Franklin and none of them. So you tried to leave to provide her a new life, just to forget why you left. So it's not a malicious thing he's doing. I think he just has not sat back to evaluate what are the needs for Wanda. And I also do love Sissy acknowledging her being married and speaking about the challenges of marriage, the challenges of Alton's decisions, and the long road to recovery. So it's just a really empowering scene for Wanda, which is still so scary because we see Wanda literally on a good foot. And God, these shows love to like pull the chair from under you, you know?
But I think that's the brilliant part here of this whole setup so far this season with Wanda is that struggle between her and Leon here.
Yeah.
Like and I'm not going to take credit for this because I heard someone else say this, and it makes perfectly good sense because the analogy works with this show. When you're in a relationship with somebody, love is never enough because I can love you all day, every day. But if I don't necessarily care for you, I kind of drop the ball. And that's what Leon is doing here. He absolutely loves Wanda. That is not for question. But he is not caring for her at this point at all because he's so focused on wanting to save the world, but it's almost sacrificing the person he loves the most in the world to do so.
Yep.
Kind of a horrible analogy to have to go down there for Leon and Wanda in this episode, as we see, like, she's still struggling here. But back to the outline, actually. Next up is Franklin and Kane, as Franklin brings up that they are not, money is going out way too fast, meaning they're spending way too much money. They're not bringing enough money in here, and he needs Kane to move more product. And this is where him and, damn it, Veronique. Just get on it.
Veronique.
Veronique, damn it. And this is also where him and Veronique talk about the next phase of their plan. And then in the following scene, we get Kane actually meeting with Franklin to discuss the business and needing more product. And Franklin wanting to see Kane's operation. What'd you just think about this whole setup? For one, we see the money problems that Franklin is having and about the amount of money that's going out and not enough is coming in. We understand Veronique is also setting up the next phase for them to deal with Franklin money being gone. We see that it also caused problems with Cassandra because of the way he blew up at her because she didn't instantly give him $73 million. And at the same time, we see the patience amazingly that he's had with Kane. And Kane's operation not moving not nearly enough product. What did you think about these whole two scenes between Franklin, Kane, and Veronique?
Yeah. It was a lot of It was a lot. I guess at this point in the episode, I was kind of just sitting back, like I didn't even know this was like. I didn't see this as a upcoming issue or predicament amongst them. Because the whole issue is should we say like in terms of their workflow is that like they're not cooking enough in order to get it out, and with Kane being the OG he would be on top of this to the point that the conversation had, and then that's it. The fact that Franklin had to go on site, like he was teleworking, and he had to go in the building, and they had to figure out like, oh, so this is why everything not going, and he has to pull up his sleeves and do what he has to do. I was just kind of like, what? Like, I was just kind of baffled, and I think I look at Kane in this one, like,
really.
I do, but even though they called okay, so you talk about like other things that was done in this episode, them calling Franklin the CEO of the ROCK. I was like, okay. Okay.
Well, no, not even that part of it. It you can go back to when I think his name is Tommy, whoever the hell the guy is that Franklin burned. We're gonna get clearly to that. But in a quick bring up about him, the conversation him and Kane had, Todd and Kane said, "Oh, Franklin's a hoe. He's a hoe that brings in money, though." You got to understand here, Kane feels no pressure to produce more product because he's making enough money. Franklin feels the pressure because he needs to move more product because he needs to make more money. This is like it's like when the supplier come back to you and be like, "Hey, like, you sure you don't want more? Like, we have so many more computers you can sell." And you're like, "Nah, my store's doing great business. I don't need to sell anything else." And the supplier like, "Nah, I need to come down and see your operation because I'm pretty sure we can move way more iPads through your store than you're pushing right now." That's the analogy that they're going through back and forth here. But also, what do you think about this quick short conversation between Veronique and Franklin about her informing Franklin, like, you were close to Cassandra walking away from everything, from helping us do anything, and that you got to be more patient instead of just constantly blowing up this way. And her laying out the plans that, like, hey, we're about to go on this next mission to find out more information for you.
Yeah, agreed. As soon as she said all that, I was like, agreed. Like, listen, I know money tight. And this whole situation got you in a chokehold, but like when you ask for help, you gotta let this deliver here. And Veronique just has the utmost patience with him that obviously she's calling her bluff because like Cassandra's going nowhere just off of the strength that she gets to bond with her daughter. But she had to make it reality for Franklin because he's used to having his way. But Veronique happens to be the only person, and Sissy are the only people that he tends to have a bit of consciousness with. So she's just doing what she's supposed to do as his partner and bringing him back down to reality. Like, listen, calm down. But then Franklin still goes and does impulsive things, which he did with Kane. So, he listens for about 5 minutes before he starts to just go off the rails again.
Exactly. But before we get to that, because I am going to focus on that, because I absolutely love that scene with Franklin. Next up, we get Reuben as he meets with someone. We're going to bring up to someone later. First, it's just that he gets news about the operation in Costa Rica. And he blows up saying something that was obviously true. I warned them, if they didn't allow this to go through, this would happen here. The one question I have for you, and I want to make sure I was not hearing this wrong. When him and the gentleman was talking, the gentleman said the senator is not happy. Am I losing my mind?
I thought I heard
that would explain that would explain why they have to talk over code over the phone. Because I said before, it has to be someone connected in the United States that you would have to talk to code over the phone with.
Yeah.
And when we talk about this operation, we talk about Reuben, who says there are other opportunities, but he was extremely upset with the way this operation went down. And for this other gentleman to say the senator was also upset about how this turned out. Who do you think Reuben is working with at this point?
So, and if I'm not mistaken, because it used to be this way, but I have no clue now. So y'all can just get in the comments and get it straight on this. The way how the government was ran at a particular point, that people in different positions ran different branches of the government, and it's still to some extent. But like we talk about like who runs certain military operations or the military, or who runs, whatever it may be. And then, because we watched this scene twice just to really like grasp what he was saying.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, he said the statement about calling in the tip to the warehouse. The tip to the warehouse to go after the CIA. That tip was called into the DEA. So are you saying that the senator and the DEA are on the same page and they're ready to just detonate this entire thing just to take down the CIA? I know the alphabet boys be rumbling, but this is a whole other level of strategy here. That means that you all, the DEA, the senator, and the KGB are working together to take down a part of the United States government.
Now here's the thing that we really got to think about now. Is Reuben actually part of the KGB?
I think that guy was Russian he met with.
It may have been Russian, but is he using the KGB as a ploy to get closer to other people?
It is interesting because he said his dad was in the KGB. I remember the conversation, and I just kept thinking like, am I missing something? But was the KGB ever in cahoots with anybody outside of Russia? I mean, it's not far-fetched, but like,
why would the KGB be working with a senator of the United States for anything? Like, at this point, it got me to wondering, is the KGB just Reuben's cover?
I don't know.
What happened if Reuben is actually with the FBI? And he's using this as a cover because his job would be, remember, the FBI protects our soil.
Yeah.
So that's why they're always at odds with the CIA.
Yeah.
So the point that a CIA operation can be happening on American soil can lead them to arrest the CIA.
Yeah.
And guess what? If I got to use these other drug dealers and their information to bring down the CIA, I will gladly do it.
Gladly will. Absolutely. Not even think twice.
And then it also just, it really came to my mind that could possibly be it. And we'll get into it later, his conversation with Gustavo. Because he said something very interesting there. That I'm like,
And even
you can't say that without you possibly being who I think you possibly could be. But my focus was on the guy and the senator, possibly.
Right. And even at this point, the other little tidbits is that they need to accelerate the timeline. They got one chance to do this, and they're shifting to Gustavo from Franklin because he's more vulnerable. So, again, they called in that tip to the warehouse, that all of a sudden just triggered other things. Like,
Yep.
Okay.
And now has really triggered other things. But next up, we have Teddy and Parissa.
Yeah, we'll go with that. We'll let you have that one.
There we go. As they talk about what would happen if she would have been caught by Reuben. First, what did you think about this conversation of just this what if scenario that these two have this conversation? Because it just felt like it was a conversation to bring them closer.
Yeah, I think the only thing it was just, I guess we're seeing Teddy's vulnerability here. He really likes her, and he's like, we gotta kind of get out of here. Things getting kind of hot. I can either get straight and get a job and we're good. And she's like, or we can take. So he has $17 million. So if you can do the math here, he has 10 million of his own potentially. And that other 7 million is, well, that's Franklin's money.
No, they got 73 million from Franklin.
Oh, I thought, hold on. Let me look at my math here. I thought they said they have 7.3 million of Franklin's.
Is it 7.3?
It's 7.3. It's 70.3, I think.
Oh, that just seems like such a small number.
And
for the amount of crack being moved.
Yeah, and then she said that he had 17 million. So I was like, all right, well, the math is math here. But I think the one thing about this scene is it shows his vulnerability, and it shows that like she is a ride or die. She's very much not like giving him ultimatums. She's just like, do what you do, and then we'll see how I act. You know what I mean? Make your decisions, and we'll see how I follow and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it's everybody has an end game here. Final season, and every character is showing their end game. And Teddy is.
I mean,
suspicious, but also
I'm about to say that pulls into my next question, because it's the last thing she asks Teddy is, how are you going to handle all of these new problems that come up?
Mm-hmm.
Did you think that this was going to pull us back into the old Teddy?
Yeah, I think the fact that he's just in love was also going to be a game changer too. So, yeah, definitely, yeah.
Oh, okay. So next up was the conversation we already talked about. That was Sissy and Wanda and crack and the struggles and the PJs. I just can't believe somebody with millions of dollars would actually move to the projects. Still makes no sense to me.
Did you? Okay, because this is gonna be funny. Did you all always call the projects the PJs?
No,
because I never heard it called that.
I think that's way. I hear it. I think that may be more of a West Coast thing.
Okay,
but not in the 80s. The New York, they considered Eddie Murphy show the PJs. They considered like the projects the PJs. I just never heard it. One, growing up where I grew up at, it was no such thing as PJs. You called where you lived at by your street or by the block.
Yeah.
So that was it.
But
clearly like it was the projects, but
the whole show PJ's projects. Like, so what's the all right? Next question.
It's just a shortened way of doing it. I think it could be a West Coast thing now, that they call the projects the PJs. Yeah. I hear it a lot in West Coast music. So I'm assuming that wow sounded so old and white by saying that. But I think that's where they got the name from. But next up is Franklin big action scene here as he goes to the cookhouse and lays down the law. Just overall, from him walking in to a crack house in a suit and tie and attempting to give instructions to other people's men. Do you think, I know I said it before that Franklin is a bit unhinged, and you came up with a different terminology and said, I wouldn't say he's unhinged, he's this. At this point now, do you think he's fully unhinged because he's stressing out about everything humanly possible?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Yeah, everybody knows somebody who money tight and how they act, and Franklin acting just like them right now. Very unconventional, sweating, whether you can visually see it or not, and willing to go to no end in order to turn results here.
Exactly.
So he did came with a suit. I was like, wait, what? Okay, cool. Because I mean, like, that's not his thing. You know, he wears. Yeah. I'm not saying he doesn't wear suits, but it's like, oh, you're showing up on site in a suit. Oh, okay. Hey, by the way, where the hell is Peaches at?
Ain't Peaches still missing?
I know. I'm just saying, like,
he sent the other guy to find out more information on Peaches when he was supposed to find out more information on Teddy's family. I think he's still out there searching. He still ain't get the word back yet.
Just thinking,
and while Franklin waiting to get the word here, but this running. This is almost exactly how I pictured when Elon Musk walked into Twitter on the first day. Like, he's just like, nah, we're gonna who cook? All right, cool. Y'all gonna run 12-hour shifts 7 days a week until our product gets where it needs to be. That's exactly what Elon Musk told everybody at Twitter. And I'm pretty sure he burned somebody's face on a stove that didn't listen to his point of view here. But again, this is unhinged Franklin. I think this is the Franklin people like to see. Yeah. You like to see him jumping out there like this, because when he does this, it makes us forget just how meek he was in the beginning of the series.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Up until he took his first body, where it almost still felt like a mistake. And he was so hurt that he had to do it. Now we're at the point where he's just burning people's faces and just taking it like, hey, I did this because it needed to be done.
Yeah.
If you're not about that work, I'll do it myself, which no. Like, like he must have forgot what it was like to cook crack. And then for him to get that one valuable person, I think that's the point here. Is that at times you got to put your foot down.
Yeah.
And the people who really want to make the money, people who really want to hustle, they'll come out. And he only got one. He like Tom Cruise and Jerry Maguire when he said, I only need one. I only need one of you. And that's all he got. Was the one. Next up was we talked about already, that was D trying to persuade Einstein that, nigga, you don't need books. We're making money over here. You know, just just stay black and do what we need you to do. But also here is when Leon visits him, and Leon asks about the playground lights, which is like a running thing in this episode. And I'm gonna say D made great points of the reason why the lights didn't need to be on, while Leon makes good points of what's the benefits of having the lights on for the neighborhood. I don't know if there's much to talk about here because it leads directly into what happens to them later on in the episode.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to bring up about this initial conversation between these two here? Because we see the tension fully in this whole conversation. Because why it's a conversation about lights, it's a conversation about power.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. Again, answering your own questions. The only other thing I kept thinking was like, if D is trying to, remove attention from the area, then how come every other scene somebody's shooting? And half of them him. Oh, okay, because you're trying to be low key, but you just out busting for no reason every single time you get a chance. Got it. Okay, cool. So power is definitely power. And this is a good analogy here, and I'm sure by in a couple of scenes you're gonna remember it. But like when they talk about people arguing, and it is never really about the subject matter, but they're arguing, it's always about something else. But there's like a saying people say about what they do, what that is. But like this is that. Like they're literally not arguing about what it really is the issue. Like it's about power. It ain't about nothing else, street lights or anything else.
The analogy is the street lights, but it's about who's controlling, because the playground lights were on when Leon was running operation. D took over and he said those aren't necessary. So then it becomes a power struggle between them two. Next up, Todd. This as after Franklin burns, and we talked about this. This is where he visits Kane. Kane basically tells him, I'm not. Y'all wasn't producing the way y'all supposed to. I think this is where you rightfully so question Kane as an OG, because it literally took another man to come into your house and tell them they're not doing stuff right for you literally to correct them and say, y'all wasn't doing stuff right. Yeah. But here's when he wants kind of revenge on Franklin, and Kane says, hey, Franklin's a hoe that makes money. And I like money. But
the analogy is reverse here.
Not only that, it makes no sense. He said Franklin's a hoe and I like money. But yet you openly admit that you allowed them to run a cookhouse, like in a place where they weren't producing the amount of money that you would like to have.
Yeah, Kane's a hoe and he likes money, so he's willing to allow whatever happens for him to get money. That's all it is.
Yeah. But normally hoes like to maximize their money. Kane is not even like he let his crack house run at 30% efficiency for like a year. Like it makes no sense. Now, okay, I questioned it at first, what you're saying about Kane. Now I fully see it because it doesn't make any sense. It literally makes no sense at all. Next up, we got Franklin going back to the cookhouse as he decided to be like Michael Jordan when he came back for the Wizards. Franklin took off his suit, put his mask back on to show the kids how he used to cook crack years ago, back when he could three-peat them Jones with Leon. Now here we do see an atmosphere where Franklin feels more comfortable. That's the biggest thing that I got out of this scene. Did you get anything out of this when we see him back at this place? We see him back with this kid when he's like, hey man, I'm here to help out. What y'all need? Y'all look like y'all need a break. Especially when he said, hey man, you get us some burgers or something. It literally brought me back to season 1.
Or just last episode.
That was it.
With Leon. Yeah.
Not that, but I mean like just when they were all cooking in a house together.
Yeah.
When it was the three of them. And that atmosphere, it's almost like that was something Franklin needed to feel again.
Absolutely. That's exactly it. Nostalgia, and his place of comfortability, his natural habitat. Not even a question.
Next up, Todd visits Jerome and Louie. Because of course he's mad at Kane because Kane didn't check Franklin.
Sucker free Wednesday.
He clearly goes to the next people who he knows can help deal with the problem. And he tells Kane and Louie, I know where Kane, he tells Louie and Jerome, I know where Kane lays his head at. basically, I need y'all to take him out. And by the way, fuck your nephew. Like,
also, wait. And also he says, I'm sorry for shooting at y'all.
That's all about. And they asked him first. They said, how do we know you're close to Kane? And he said, because I've done stuff with Kane, including shooting up this club. I'm sorry.
Listen, before you even ask me a question, Jerome should have shot him.
Thank God. That's the first thing
like, no. And I know there has to be another scene where somebody tried to play somebody like this, and it was just a mole, essentially. But like, really? Jerome is way too much of an OG and a hothead currently to not have shot him straight up.
You just said the biggest issue. He's a hothead, meaning he's not thinking. All he heard was, it's a way we can take Kane out. Jeez. He heard nothing. He didn't put on his thinking cap to say, I need to kill you. Like, you could tell me where Kane is, and then I'm just gonna kill you right afterwards. Jeez. One, because you shot my place up. Two, because I don't know if you're telling me the truth. So I'm just gonna take you out to begin with anyway. Again, it's just these people. I think that's the point of this season. The point of this episode is a lot of decisions are being made strictly off of emotion.
Yeah.
And I don't care how much of an OG you think you are.
Yeah.
If you are making any decisions based off of emotion, you're going to fail. Because decisions in that game don't need to be made off of emotions. Because the moment you make it off an emotion, you're going to go down a path that you can't come back from. And that's what we get here with the decision to move forward with Todd and his plans and to unnecessarily shoot up everything humanly possible.
Yeah.
So next up, we get a nice conversation. It seemed at first between Wanda and Leon, and then we see the height of the disrespect started happening from D. One, first him saying, "Oh man, you done wifed up the neighborhood pussy." He made sure he said it so everybody could hear him, especially Leon and Wanda.
Yeah.
And this is where Leon questions, did he make the right decision?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Again, something we've been talking about this entire time. Did he make the right decisions coming back here? And then we see another blow between him and D. What do you think, sir, about Leon's mindset here? And is he finally accepting what he was told in Africa from the beginning?
Yeah,
about
absolutely.
Coming back here?
Absolutely here. First of all, the disrespect here was just, oh geez, like, but Wanda kept her composure, also kept him composed for a period of time. And she was having a good day, talking about being out in the shelter with Sissy and what it was doing for her. But yeah, Leon is also a word for his personality right now. But like, he's been told now by the one guy from Africa, Wanda, and so now that he's finally seeing it, he's just like, oh, I don't recognize nobody anymore. Everything's gone. All the regrets. It's definitely an aha moment, but like, you know, I guess he has to just make his next move his better move, and that's what that's what's going to be done. The shot of resilience here. But yeah, it was only a matter of it was but for so much that he was going to be able to take. And I actually like that they scrapped, because for once, protect Wanda. Like, show us something that shows you that you're protecting Wanda, like for real,
That's a form of protection. We're gonna get into it. We'll get into it because you said that, and I'm very interested in that. Fighting is never for the woman. That's all about your ego. It ain't got nothing to do with Wanda. Because if it had anything to do with Wanda, the moment he said you wife the community pussy, I'd have shot him in his head. It's the end of discussion here, buddy. Like, I don't care how much of an OG you think you are. And if I take you out, them guys will do nothing but follow me again anyway. But I'm not gonna let you say that out your mouth. He was literally doing a personal hit him up video in Leon's face. Wanda was right there. Like, it was extremely disrespectful. But next up, talking about someone doing things in people's faces, we get Gustavo and Teddy. And this is where Teddy lays it out on the line for Gustavo that he needs to start watching his back. Like, clearly there's someone after them. And he basically tells him, hey, if anything breaks out, I need you to let me know immediately what's going on here. And we see Gustavo, as he's been doing it this entire time, playing it cool that he's actually the informant that Teddy's worried about. But then we get the Teddy look. And this is what I meant by him coming back to his old self. We get the look of suspicion as Gustavo is driving away. At this point in the episode, what did you think Teddy was about to do to Gustavo?
Oh, I mean, one, we need the Teddy look every once in a while. That keeps us on edge here. But there were some interesting things that was said on this. And he complimented him backwards. He said something like, "Oh, you really handy with the Beretta." And he was like, "Oh, I learned it from the CIA." And I was thinking to myself, like, he's passing suspicion onto Gustavo by him handling a foreign gun. It's not a Russian gun, but it is a foreign gun. And I'm guessing he's saying, like, we've never used that. So where'd you pick that skill
up? Where would you learn that from? You didn't learn that from the CIA.
Yeah, I was like, well, wait a minute now. Yeah, right. Yeah, you didn't learn that from the CIA. It's just Teddy says, and it's odd because now we see Gustavo confident. And then Teddy's suspicious now. They never on the same page. When Gustavo was suspicious, Teddy wasn't thinking about him. So it's just funny how the sort of the turning of the page with the two of them always on the opposite pages. So yeah.
Okay. Next up is something I don't think is much to talk about. This is Gustavo with his sister-in-law. That's what I'm gonna call it because I'm not gonna try to say the name. His sister-in-law meets and her basically telling Gustavo, like, it's not right, the things that you're doing here. Nothing to talk about here. It's a very simple thing said. And the only reason I say that is because the next up, I'm just gonna set you up by saying Reuben and Gustavo at the bar. What are your thoughts about this entire scene?
It's dope how, like, Reuben comes in with a tactic that seems like just commentary giving somebody who's at the bar clearly having something going down. And he's thinking it's about his family. And for Gustavo to not be responsive about it when it does seem in correlation to his family. And that's all he's been worried about this entire time, is protection of his family. So now he's not even responding to that. Just for him to say, oh, okay, but it's not about your family here. You know, they started talking that CIA, DEA stuff, KGB, and then he starts to turn up like, wait a minute, like, what is this? What's happening? So I just thought that Reuben coming in, shooting it direct, letting him know what it is, what they're trying to do. And obviously giving him the spiel sort of with Sissy, like, listen, America don't care about you. You don't got no protection. Man, listen, that dude is out here by himself, and you're gonna be, left out to dry. Got 24 hours to let us know, but we'll get you a new life out the country. Which I'm thinking to myself, like, KGB.
When did the KGB have that type of power?
Yeah, like, yo, you don't have that power. Yeah.
Well, did it click to you then when he said that to Gustavo, or that we need to have Teddy and his boss at the warehouse so we can arrest them?
Yeah.
Because when did the KGB have arrest authority on United States property?
and again,
he also told Gustavo, he said, our mission is almost just like the DA's, but it's different. Boy, that sounds like the FBI. And you know who the FBI uses to get what they need? Black and brown people.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's that. Yeah.
So even further lets me think, or leading me to think that,
that's interesting.
Reuben could be FBI, and he's just playing this KGB angle because that was the way to get in with Sissy.
Yeah, listen, there was a lot of FBI and DEA agents working together, and even probably still very recently when it comes down to these big drug busts that are happening. DEA gets them across the lines. They do what they do. But yeah, when you talk about the El Chapos, you talk about the Pablo Escobar, for whatever it is, those two seem to be able to work together. But yeah, if they gotta take down the CIA or people from the CIA, listen, a bus is a bus here. So you could be entirely right here that he is FBI, and I had not put that on my bingo card just yet. I would probably by next episode, they probably would have gave it away. But now that we're here, I'm buying what you're selling here, sir.
Hey, all I'm like is we're in the 80s and we are in the period of Contra, and it's public knowledge the conversations that were had around this, and this is technically the situation in Contra is what they use a lot to move drugs in the United States, and they say it came from the CIA. Everybody's very adamant that it came from the CIA,
and when you think about it, they're so adamant on proof
because they need proof. You can't just say the CIA is moving drugs. The moment Reuben says, we need to get him and his boss in a warehouse, you need evidence of them around drugs. But again, if you're the KGB, you wouldn't care. Matter of fact, if you're the KGB, why are you so invested on an American government agency selling drugs in America?
Yeah, facts.
It will be no focus on that. But again, I think that's why this is such an interesting conversation. But the last part of this scene here, and I think we all knew this was happening here, as Reuben is walking away from the bar, Teddy is outside in his car.
Yeah.
And now it's safe to assume that Teddy's assumption is Gustavo is working with Reuben. Where do you think this will go next episode?
They got 24 hours. They're getting ready to make this bus. So I don't know, but it's definitely going to have. I have no clue. I can see Teddy. I can see Teddy just going MIA and leaving with Parisa and just saying, listen, it's too hot. Sparing Gustavo, because killing Gustavo does nothing at all.
I'm not going to say killing Gustavo, but at this point, with Gustavo working with Reuben or Teddy believing that they're working together, do you think the operation stays at the same place?
No, Teddy's way smarter than that. You know that.
So if the operations moves, what's the point? If you raid the warehouse, you're raiding an empty warehouse.
Yeah.
At that point, it creates another problem and another issue. Or the last thing you want to do is storm it, and it's just Teddy in there by himself. Yeah. And he sees everybody.
Yeah.
Because at that point, you've exposed yourself fully to the CIA at that point. And we know one thing about the CIA. If they get fully exposed, they just prefer to get rid of people. Yeah. No need to have deep conversations about anything else at that point. You thought people were just disappearing in the 80s? They were, because they had way too much information to still be staying and living. Next up, big scene is just Leon again playing the power dynamics with D as he pays to get the lights fixed after D told him
they got that poor white man in the hood.
Hey, that's what I was wondering, because I'm like, out of all places, I'm not going there to fix your lights, sir. I'm gonna need you to call Pepco, because they're gonna have to come out here and fix this. I'm not coming out here by myself.
Yeah.
Now, I need to ask you this, because I don't know if I missed something. The next scene is with Veronique and Cassandra as they go on the trip to find Franklin's money. Was it just a coincidence the plates of the car said Kansas, or were they in Kansas?
I don't know. I wrote it in my notes like Kansas. I was like, okay.
Yeah. But I don't know in the 80s if it's a thing where clearly, you could be in DC and get a rental car with Kansas plates. But maybe back then that wasn't necessarily the case. And I think, one, the camera did a great job at highlighting that tag. And I'm thinking you're highlighting that tag because that's where they are. Where's Teddy from? I can't remember. Is it Kansas or Milwaukee?
I don't remember, but a little bit of searching here, we can get that.
Because that will be an interesting thing, because if he is from this territory, that means he would have hid the money back with his folks. I doubt it, but then that's still a weird coincidence. Or could this be what our audience definitely thinks, what everyone's audience thinks watching Snowfall, is this just a setup of Veronique about to screw over Franklin?
Read this right here. Season 2, he was divorced in a dire need of a pilot, especially after a series of missed drops, and returned to his hometown of Kansas City, Kansas to recruit his brother Matt, a former pilot during Vietnam War.
There you go. There you go. That's the information. See, we can't leak. Wow, we don't research these before we hop on here. At times when we're talking, you're like, wait a minute. Like, they didn't just show me a Kansas plate for no reason.
Well.
So now we understand that Veronique and Cassandra are in Teddy's hometown here. Between this happening, between him and Gustavo now, I think we're going to get to the breaking point where Teddy's just going to start thinking, just kill everybody. Like there's no need for anybody to be left standing. Yeah. But next up, again, you already brought it up. The word was put out to Gustavo that the DEA is moving on the warehouse tomorrow. I think this is just a setup of a very explosive episode 5. We always tell people, if you're looking for the most explosive episodes in anybody's season, is that one that's at the halfway point, which if it's 10, you get episode 5. And it's always the episode before the last episode that are the most explosive. So at least we're going to see, I think, a lot of this come to fruition by that episode. But especially this with the DEA already moving in on this house. And next up, Franklin and Kane have another conversation here. But this conversation, as it is about the cookhouse, is about moving more product and just about respect in general between these two. But this one ends in gunfire as the hit has been made, or the hit has been called out to be made on Kane, not understanding that Franklin was there. What do you think about, I know you already said Jerome isn't thinking properly to even believe this young kid. What do you think about them going through with this hit attempt on Kane?
Yeah. I understood how. Well, Jerome and them wasn't there, first of all.
Of course, Jerome wasn't gonna put himself in that situation.
Yeah, so they they blessed this suicide mission of theirs. Like, okay, because I was just gonna play out, Yeah, they get the sneak attack here, but like, really? But it was just interesting, because with all the fighting Kane and Franklin had, Kane was yelling out the funniest things the entire time. He was like, "Yo, get me, nigga, get me!" And they go to the bed. And even with Franklin, I mean, this was a good action scene too. This felt like Eve Rivera type of style right here, coming through with that shot in the kitchen and panning around. And also kind of Michael Bay-ish a little bit too when you think about it. But yeah, it was just a good action shot to really get everything going. Because at this point now, I mean, it served no purpose for Todd and them, but maybe it serves a purpose for Kane and Franklin to get back on the same page and whatnot. But this was action for television reasons here. I don't make nothing of the other things.
It was just a nice, funny scene to see as a bunch of people who clearly can't shoot, and Franklin and Kane becoming John Wick Juniors, and they can't miss. Yeah. So it was just very interesting to see the way that scene works. But final scene to close out this episode, and this is the big fight between D and Leon here. What do you think about the way they shot this scene? What do you think about just Wanda doing her best pops from Friday to "Come on, Craig, get up, Craig, get up"? And is this equivalent in a fight? Because I'm all for the jokes here. There's nothing serious to be talking about with these two fighting, but I'm all here for this Vin Diesel versus The Rock fight here. Where clearly there's absolutely no way this should even be a fight, but it happens to be a fight. So what did you think about the way they set it up, the execution of it, and the ending of it? As we already brought up what Leon said, what do you think the ramifications will be for that?
I mean, at this point now, just there's literally nothing to say. That did have been Diesel Rock Day. That's a perfect analogy here. But like, yeah, when he says my shit nigga, I was just kind of like, okay, well, Leon hasn't learned anything. He could have just
regressed that fast.
He could have easily took Einstein with him and just got out of there, but he right back in it like, oh, I'm running it again. So
him, Einstein, and Wanda, that could have been their adopted child in Africa. He could have studied abroad. Like, it's so many outcomes here that will work better than you taking back over your block.
Absolutely.
Because here's the weird part, though. If you're taking it over, that means you literally have to sell drugs again. Because you're not going to be able to take it over and think, oh, no, we're just going to build a daycare center. It ain't going to work that way. Like, you got wolves out there, and the wolves got to eat. If you don't feed them, you become their meal.
Yeah.
Like, it makes this whole thing makes no sense. But again, the character of Leon has been a walking contradiction for a while now. And maybe this is the peak of that. And maybe we're going to see some very interesting stuff in what will be clearly at this point an extremely explosive episode 5, because it's humanly impossible for it not to be. But sir, what are your final thoughts on Projects Boy?
Yeah, title confusing. And overall, this is a really good episode. A little change in pace from last week. I looked it up. This is written by Sal Calleros and directed by Alonso Alvarez. And I think this season is really building up to be a season that won't disappoint for the final season. So good episode, a lot of little tidbits in there, funny things, some things we didn't agree with, but overall I thought it was just a solid episode. So let's get to episode 5 next week.
Hey, thank you. And you all like, subscribe, comment on this episode of our recap review of Snowfall. Let us know what you think about Leon.
Don't bug us. We got lives. It's like, nah, we love y'all. Listen, if y'all don't know what we're talking about, we didn't drop a review on the time we usually did. Life came at us. We've already said
for one show.
For one show. Out of 6.
Out of 6. But we greatly appreciate the point that y'all was hounding in other reviews for this show. Y'all better be on there watching it right now,
subscribing
before this episode came
super chats, the donate, all of that at this point now. Sheesh, y'all.
Hey, look, the likes are off exactly. You see what happened? Because we can tell y'all the truth before we let y'all know to like, subscribe, comment on this episode. What ended up happening, why we had the delay, is that my guy here, Niger, decided to go on IG Live with a gun, and he got suspended for 2 shows. So he
it's a fact.
Hey.
I talked to Steven Jackson. He said I'm good though. I checked back.
That's all that matters at this point. But again, let us know what you think about Leon. Is he putting Wanda in a horrible predicament here? Do you think it's smart that he looks like he's taking back the crown of King of the Hood? What do you think about Franklin and Kane? Will this shootout make their relationship closer, and will they become an equal bigger threat to Jerome and Louie by doing so? And let us know, do you think Einstein will get into college? Is it a possibility, or is he just living a lie and telling himself things when he already making 6-figure salary? And again, let us know about Reuben. What do you think about the conclusion? Who is he working with? Is he an actual FBI agent? And where are we going to go with this Teddy and Gustavo thing? And then again, tune in to this review. Every other review we got coming out too, people. We got a lot. Clearly, we have a lot coming out that you all clearly know about, and we greatly appreciate it every time y'all watch it. But until next time, peace, people.
Big gold bell.